Thanks for checking out this highlight from Epic Loot Radio. If you want to see the full podcast after the highlight, just check the top link in the description for more. All right, guys, we're now coming into the meat of our show here. This is going to be kind of our final segment. If you guys are watching in a highlight or still here, be sure to hit that like button, that subscribe button, and that share button, whatever version of this that you're listening to. Really helps me out a lot. It helps share out the podcast and lets me know that we're doing and making great content for you here. So I'm going to go around the table. I'm going to start with Rich because you obviously picked this game up. Game Pass was a shifter into it. So
yes.
Your financial investment here is the cost of Game Pass, which you're already getting value out of. So
yes.
quote unquote free is probably how we'll describe Game Pass. It's quote unquote free.
Yes, I use quote unquote free. Yes, or already paid for.
Now already paid
for it.
Yeah, past you paid for this. Let's talk about the game itself. How far have you made it in? What's the best class? Why is it Devastator? But like, how far have you made it in? What's been your experience so far? And are the crashes forgivable if fixed within a reasonable amount of time?
Yeah, sure. So, I think I'm probably less far than probably anybody else on this show. It's just the nature of my life with, family and running a law firm. But I have an interesting kind of interaction with this one. I kind of fashioned myself as knowing what's going on in video games and following all this stuff and having a YouTube channel where we talk about them. Outriders came up on me. My brother, who's in video games, he works for High Moon and works on Call of Duty, was really excited about this game. I didn't know anything about it. So when the demo dropped in, February? Mm-hmm. We got together on PlayStation Share, and I played through the demo while I think he was working because he's in California. And I didn't know anything about it. Everything was a surprise. It's in space. Or it's a colonization game. It's third person. There's loot. And so that was a really interesting experience. Our first interaction, though, we played through the prologue part. And it was very, I don't know. I don't know about this. And then I called him back after I was playing through the demo. I said, I love this thing. And I started as a pyromancer and I played through the demo all the way to the end. And then I tried Technomancer and Trickster on the demo. I played it however many times that was, all on PlayStation. This was a done deal. I loved this thing. I really liked how zippy it was, 60 frames. I liked what they were doing with perks and that kind of thing. And then I think it was some kind of Friday night drop from the Xbox Twitter where they said, we might be looking at an anomaly and searching for a signal. I said, that's Outriders, and that's coming to Game Pass. And I did a video on it. And that was a done deal for me. I was purchasing it on PlayStation, $70. I think it's 70, maybe it's 60.
PS5 would be 70, yeah, but good.
Yeah, and I was going to buy it on PlayStation. I had Game Pass, and now I'm playing it on Xbox because it would be silly not to. Yeah. So that's one of those drivers where you look at the math. For me, I'm the business and law guy, and I say, wow, that's interesting because Square Enix straight up lost a sale. Sony lost their 30%. Xbox brought it over but paid for it, and you just wonder how everybody works that kind of thing out. And that's one of those where I really like thinking about it long term in terms of the business side. Mm-hmm. As the game, so as I mentioned, I was the other three classes that I ran through the demo at least 3 times. I'm a Devastator now in the main game. And I love my rock armor. It's very flashy. And I like the sound effects that it makes when they ping off the rock armor. I'm about level 20.
Nice.
In the trench city. We're not doing spoilers, but like the middle of the game. I have been enjoying it immensely. I was a little concerned, having played through the demo a number of times, that maybe the encounters wouldn't be difficult enough, which is ironic now, having died however many times.
Yeah. You're like, these guys, they don't miss a shot.
No, you play the demo and you're like, I got this down. This game is going to be fine. And then it was, the fourth time I died at like a normal arena on the 2 hours that I sometimes get after a work day. And I'm like, okay, do I drop the world tier or do I figure something else out?
Did you feel guilty about dropping the world tier? Because I had an immense amount of like, oh God. And then after you do it,
I refuse.
I haven't
You can
dropped
drop my wool tier from my cold dead fingers.
I haven't dropped it, although because of the way it works, where I think the world tier loses experience when you die, I'm pretty much locked in at world tier 7 right now. So we'll see if I can ever grow that. But I've had a great time with it. Honestly, I like looter shooters. I don't love them, but I've played them all. I've played a lot of Destiny. I've played a lot of Division. This to me feels closer in spirit to Diablo. It is focused on spatial awareness and perks and fun stuff. And this is really why the demo convinced me to buy it. Was they give you that first gun in the prelude. I'm like, oh, that's weird. I like that. That's fun. And then they kind of show it a little bit. And then I didn't realize actually until I bought the game, but what you can do with crafting is, move everything around and you can really mess with your builds. And that's what I like to do. That's the fun. So I look at it as I say, I'm playing through Devastator and people say, well, it's not a games as a service, although it's quasi like that.
Yeah, I
know.
know.
And you have to play through the same content. I'm looking forward to the other 3 classes, if not more. They can always expand with more. So I think it's fantastic. I didn't pay extra for it. I couldn't be happier with it right now. I love narrative in video games, so I'm really surprised and happy about they're just super serious about their Outriders world. And they drop 6 paragraphs of lore every 10 minutes, which is a little bit annoying when you're playing with your brother. But it's great stuff. And I'm looking forward to playing it more this weekend. I think that's about it for me. I've got a long way to go, so I don't know what endgame looks like and that kind of thing. But the mysteries, the narrative, the character is compelling, and the gameplay, which is the most important. I enjoy every minute. I think you also asked about crashes. So I've had it crash out 2 times, which I think is on the low end for people. And so in my experience, since I owned the PlayStation 5 and really the Series X to some extent, the launch window here has been rife with crashes for everything I've played. So it just kind of feels like that. And it doesn't really bother me that much. I haven't lost progress or anything like that. But certainly the people that say, oh, I've gotten kicked out 8 times today, I can certainly understand how that's a problem. It just hasn't been my experience.
Well, let's go with Rory. How far are you in? What are you class are you maining? Anything surprise you? How are the crashes?
So I'm also maining Devastator. I think I'm about 10 hours in, and I also think that I've just reached Trench Town or whatever it's called. Because then you start unlocking like side quests and stuff. So I started going back and checking out what that stuff was, because I know that a lot of people, particularly when it comes to looter shooters, they have this tendency to just burn through it all the way into the end game because everything that matters is in the end game. I'm like, no, I'm going to keep playing at my own pace, kind of like what I did with 14, where I did all of the raids and stuff while the level was still relevant. So I'm going real slow and just taking my time with it. And I'm enjoying it. And it's really weird. I almost feel like I'm in Bizarro World or something, because every time I go on Twitter or I go and watch like a video about Outriders, like people are just slamming this game. And
are they? Is that what's happening? I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's like,
oh yeah, they're gamers mad. It's not a new story.
It's like they're saying the game is bland. It's not fun. It's buggy. It's crashing. It's got lag. It's got this and that. And to me, and this is my experience on the PlayStation 5, I had one crash, which led to me then having one infinite login thing, which I just closed out the game, started up again, and instantly loaded in. That was the only issue that I've had so far. No other issues whatsoever. I go in there, I play the game. I think it's a lot of fun because the demo already kind of like surprised me in a lot of ways, because I actually like the voice acting and the story that they're telling, because I am somewhat biased to the whole story of like, oh, we had to abandon Earth and then we found this Eden-like planet, which is completely new, and now everything's gone to crap, and like, oh no, and we have to figure out what's going on. Like, I like those kinds of stories. They resonate well with me. So all of the setup for Outriders to me is fun. And they solved one of the biggest problems that I had with the demo, which was that stupid shaky camera in the cutscenes that was so atrocious. It's like someone was with the camera going like this while they were trying to film. And they have a setting now that you just go in there and you're like camera smoothing or whatever, and you put that to max, and there's no more shaky camera in cutscenes. So That was one of my biggest problems. They solved that, not a problem. And then again, it was one of those things where I keep hearing people say that the voice acting is abysmal and the actors are bad. And I was like, I'm not getting this at all. Like at all. I don't understand.
Bunch of clout chasing little, weak sauce arguments.
But you don't understand.
Yeah.
I've heard this from like mainstream podcasts. Like big publication podcasts are saying this, and
name a podcast, and I'll give you a review on them real quick. Go ahead.
Do you really want? Okay,
No,
I
we
don't want to
don't. I
burn
don't
them because
know.
I like their podcast. But I'll say it. It's Giant Bomb. Like I love Giant Bomb. I watch their podcast. And Jeff Gerstmann was just going like, I hate this.
Does he like? looter
he loves
games?
the game.
Does Giant
He
Bomb
loves
like any
the
video
game.
games
Listen. He loves the game. He hates the cutscenes. He says the cutscenes and the acting is terrible, and that's the part that I'm like, I don't understand.
I actually love the cutscenes.
I like it. Yeah, exactly. I like those cutscenes. I actually like the way the main character acts because you're a mercenary and he acts just like a mercenary. He's an asshole.
He doesn't care at all.
Because a lot of games they give you that thing where it's like your background is a mercenary, but you're going around being like all goody two shoes.
He does.
And in Outriders, like he's just like no, screw it.
He does shoot some people. That's true.
Yeah.
He has that aspect to him as a character. But and not going into spoilers, my summary of the story is it's a story about what can happen when people actually give a shit. And not to go off and say, let's all curse on this, but if you look at study the characters from that perspective, the world is all when you have the war of it, that's going on with the insurgents, that's all internal, that's all survival. And what happens when somebody says, I'm not going to make it about myself. There's something bigger at stake here, even if it costs me everything. And that's look at every character that ends up following you and look at it with that lens. And I actually really love the story for that aspect. I thought it was fantastic.
I've enjoyed the story too. I mean, the one thing I would say is it's significantly darker. It's got dark tones throughout a lot of
very dark. Yeah.
Than I thought it would. And that's the side quest. I mean, that's everybody that you meet. And all of this darkness is really, really interesting because I started the demo, didn't think the prologue was necessary. So it's weird. It's kind of really separated. But I do think it's useful to be like, this is what people wanted. This is what we were trying to achieve. And then this is what it developed into. And there's a real sense of hopelessness that, hopefully you're changing throughout I'm not far enough to know. But that was a big surprise because otherwise, there's lava spiders and there's big monsters and there's giant blue storms and things like that. But it really has a humanitarian darkness and interest. And while I think the player character takes some getting used to for both the male and female voices, I think everybody else is dead on. I mean, I love Shira.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Yeah, Rory.
One of the things that I wanted to bring up that I forgot to mention is, and this for some reason this matters a lot to me, is I love the concept of the truck.
Oh yeah.
That where you go, the truck just kind of follows along you. And if you're playing in multiplayer with a friend, whenever you're in the camp, his truck is there too.
Their truck is there.
I love that because I remember back initially when they were talking about Anthem before the game released. In Anthem, they had those walker things, and they said that those were going to operate like mobile bases. I remember in one of my videos, I remember saying something like, man, it'd be awesome if I would have my walker and then someone who's playing with me would have their walker and you're just walking through the jungle together and stuff. And then whenever you stop, you just have both of them. This game basically does that, except it's not a walker, it's the trucks. But I really like that idea. I guess it has something to do with the fact that I also really liked Mass Effect. And you had the Normandy. Wherever you would go, there would be the Normandy. It's not even necessarily like a gameplay element, but it's something that contributes towards your immersion because how you got there. We came with this truck and my team is in this truck. And that's why everything is like this. And you see the truck in the cutscenes with the customizations that you do. And I love that aspect. And I wish more games would do stuff like that as opposed to just no, my game is this one character and this is the only thing that matters. No, I like the fact that there's that little truck that kind of just follows you around, even though, again, it's not a gameplay element at all, but it is a really cool thing.
Yeah, they're super serious about their world. Yeah.
Let's go to Chaos. Chaos, like what? How much time have you spent? What class are you maining right now? What's your thoughts about the game overall?
So, I'm maining Devastator.
Oh my gosh, I stacked the panel.
Devastator?
I stacked the panel and I didn't even know it. Go ahead.
I actually played through the entire story first, skipping all the side quests until I got to the end, which gave its own complications, as I found out later on the final boss. How far have you guys gotten before I say anything else on the story?
Trench Town.
Yeah,
pretty
I'm
much.
Trench Town.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I won't dive too far into it. Maybe we'll leave that for another
That's
podcast.
definitely from a story perspective. I think that's something we'll talk
in
about
terms of
another one.
bugs, I only had my first crash today.
Oh, wow.
And I've had no issues at all. I've played the game primarily solo. I have played a handful of times multiplayer with other PC users because we can't crossplay at the moment.
Right.
But I've had literally zero issues in terms of performance outside of the launch issues with the whole DirectX and graphics drivers. I'm not including any of the day one issues. Outside of that, I've had no issues personally. Game-wise, I'm really enjoying the game. I think it's really... it ticks all the boxes for me. The campaign, the end game. I think the end game could have been somewhat different. I was kind of hoping for a little more. But the side quests, man, the side quests are so good. Some of them just shine through like crazy. They are just really, really laugh out loud funny.
But
they
not,
are just...
I'm sorry. Let me just go in. It's like not just that, because for instance, there was this one side quest that I did, and I'm not going to get into the details of it, but that side quest that I thought, okay, it's just going to be one side quest or whatever. I think that actually contributed a lot to me learning more about one of the main antagonists of the game, and I was just like, oh, this was a side quest. It was optional. Like I didn't have to do this. That's
I
weird.
think I know what one you're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I think the game has hit all the right boxes for me. There are problems with the game. There's no denying that. There are certain design fundamentals that I think really need looking into. And, the latest maintenance patch that they released kind of tried to address some of that, but I just think they fell off the mark a little. They didn't go far enough.
Can you give me like a very specific example? Because I actually really want to know.
Okay, so one of the things you'll encounter when you're playing in multiplayer is if you go down, you don't lose any world tier progress at all. If your teammate raises you, you don't lose anything. You've also got a pick-me-up, which is a one-time token life that you can do that. If you're playing solo, if you go down, you're out. That's it. And you lose like 20% of your world tier progress. At least that's how it was for me, which is a lot considering how long it takes to build up that world tier progress. That is something that I think they fundamentally dropped the ball on. Once you get to the end game and you get your gear, going back and doing some of the other quests, you'll get those world tier levels quite easily. But while you're playing through, dying to a boss because you've never fought the boss, never experienced the boss, you're not going to know the mechanics of that boss. You're not going to know how it attacks, how it reacts. You're not going to know anything about it. And being penalized for that, which is, in my opinion, what's happening, is wrong. As a solo player, they should add some form of mechanic there where, the first 3 times you attempt it, or at least the first 2 times you attempt it, or even the first time you attempt it, it's a free path. You will not lose any progress. If you see that this is way outside of your league, at that point you can lower your world tier level. You'll safeguard your world tier progress, and do it that way. I think that's something they should have done.
That was actually one of the complaints that I had. I kind of like I forgot about it, but that was one of the complaints that I've had on the last stream that I did, was that I felt that the world tier dropping was way too punishing. And this is coming from someone that loves playing games like Dark Souls, Sekiro, all of that stuff. I love hard games, but like the thing is, none of those games punishes you as harshly in your world tier progression as Outriders. Like I remember at one point I was like trying to grind through world tier 6 and I wasn't paying attention to the XP, but I remember that I was about to reach level 7 And then I died like twice, and I'm like all the way back to the middle of the thing, and I was like, wait, what? Like, what the hell? Jesus Christ.
It's demoralizing, right?
Yeah, I was like, wow, that really sucked. So it came to a point where I was just like, sitting back with a sniper rifle. Okay, fine. You want me to play like this? Fine. I was almost like resenting the game, and I was like, fine, I'll play like this. Pop shot, pop shot, pop shot, and just like killing people like that.
Yeah. I took it to a whole new level on one of them. I just knocked it down straight to World Tier 3 and just destroyed that boss and then moved on. No regrets. No regrets.
No regrets at all, man. Yeah, that's what it's there for. It's like, okay, let's go. Go ahead, please.
Can I talk about the patch, or are we not getting into that just yet?
Well, from a details perspective, I know I did a detail video, but we can talk about the nerfs that they're doing. We can talk about the patch that's coming next week. That's basically what I wanted to talk about. Yeah, let's jump into the concept of nerfing some of the classes and the bullet skills already, which doesn't go like that's another thing that the internet is pissed about, is that I don't think any gamer likes like nerfs because you learn something, but I think overall like it doesn't affect me in that like as much as some people. So I'm biased in that regards. I don't have a judgment against anybody who's upset by the nerfs, but it never is a fun thing. It's not like, yes, we did it. Go ahead, Chaos.
So the nerfs that came in basically hit Trickster and Technomancer heavily.
Mm-hmm.
Devastator wasn't touched at all, and Pyromancer. And Pyromancer, well, they're pyro. They can do decent damage, but they're not great so their burning grounds don't do as much. Essentially, with Technomancer, you could be on World Tier 15, Challenge Tier 15, the highest difficulty, and one-shot everything. Bosses, you name it. And it was because the multiplier that was there and the amount of damage you could actually just accumulate on mods was crazy. People were doing over 1 million shots. It's insane. And this is something that, the Devastator or the Pyromancer can't do. So as of right now, before the patch, the maintenance patch went live, if you was a Devastator or a Pyromancer and you was trying to matchmake into expeditions or into LFG forums and stuff like that, you were instantly getting kicked. They didn't want Devastators because they just cannot do the damage output that is required, that these, the players are requiring. They want to take in 4 million DPS instead of taking off 200k DPS. Because then with Technomancer and Trickster, it is so easy to create something to use without even trying. It is literally just so easy mode. Obviously, if you want to hit those peaks of min-maxing, that will take a bit of farming. But to get something that's going to deal 500-600k of damage, you can do it like that. Just by switching on the nodes and activating Twisted Rounds or...
Blighted Rounds.
Blighted Rounds. It's when you're doing it for the Devastator, you can't do that. Now, the nerfs that came in was supposed to, do some adjustment to that, so other classes don't just get instantly removed, because this became a real problem within 1 week. People were on the forums, on Reddit, complaining that they can't get into matchmaking expeditions because as soon as they join, they're getting kicked because they're playing a Devastator, and the Devastator doesn't have a rounds ability, which was really silly from a design point of view. They should have had a bleed rounds to, compensate for something like this.
I'd love a bleed rounds. I'm rocking a bleed build right now, and it's amazing. And the one thing I'm looking for is I'm trying to collect the advanced bleeding bullets, so that way I can end up just modding that in and just I don't know, laughing hysterically. Go ahead.
The nerf that actually has hit isn't that substantial. I mean, it's quite big. Certain abilities got hit by 50%.
Mm-hmm.
But they can still output more damage than the other two classes, without even trying. You would still need to go and put, 20, 30, 40, 50 hours in the end game, to try and get something remotely close to what they're getting within 30 seconds. But if you're going to nerf the other two classes as heavily as you did, you need to provide buffs for the other two classes to make those nerfs worthwhile. They didn't do that. And they just nerfed those two classes and left the others the same. So they are still doing their 600-700k instead of their 1 million. Whereas I'm doing 100k, 200k. And they're still not going to take me into their group. They needed to kind of it seems like it was a knee-jerk reaction to people getting kicked and people one-shotting the bosses. I know Moxie released like a video literally one-shotting everything, including final bosses, and it was crazy. But it seems like they kind of went into this with a knee-jerk reaction, and they kind of missed the ball on, hey, if we're going to nerf these guys to try and bring them in line with the other guys, maybe we should, buff the other guys. Because like a bunch of my friends now who were playing Devastators, they've now restarted the campaign as a Technomancer and have started playing Techno.
Yeah.
Or Trickster.
People are going to go who does the best DPS.
Well, it's not so much the best DPS. People are kicking you if you go in as a Devastator. If you join a matchmake expedition, if you go in as a Devastator, you have a high probability of being kicked as a Devastator. That is a really crappy experience for a game that's only been out for a week.
And as a squad of 4 Devastators right here, we will not stand for it. I'm not. Yeah,
well,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm not worried. You look at the data, you analyze the data, you make adjustments. The fact that they are able to look at the data, make these adjustments, and then analyze it. Like, does it bring it more in line? I think as long as they're open and communicative, that this isn't the one update. This isn't this is an online connected game. This is something that let's see what happens after the patch. Like, I honestly think the first issue is get the game stable, get people connected and playing together, because one thing that will prevent you from getting kicked is playing with friends, unless your friends are complete jerks. It's like, hey, why are you playing this class? It's like, I told you to go and grind this up. But at the core of it, like, no, it's like, if you're playing with friends, it's not an issue. The matchmaking, yes. But then, like, this isn't going to be the first round of adjustments and changes. What I would like to see, obviously, is bringing in buffs. I agree with you 100% that bringing in buffs to bring the level up is great. What I'd also like to see is that, especially if people are one-shotting things at tier 15, well, let's add more tiers. Like, let's just say now it can go to tier 20 and tier 30. Like,
but then you're pushing the goalposts for Devastators and Pyromancers even further behind.
It's paired with buffing the classes, though. Like, it's not just that. Like, once you've gone and raised people up, then if people are still, like, if Devastators are running in and one-shotting bosses at tier 15, then it's time for new challenge tiers at that regard, right? Because if that's something that can be done and can be repeated, let's make things harder. Let's make things, more powerful. But no, like it's just not something that really worries me right now, even as a Devastator main. But my goal is also to level up all the classes. I think, especially when things change in Final Fantasy for specifics, I always say have a backup option, because it doesn't mean that you're going to go into Endwalker and be happy with the changes to your job. Have a plan, and that way you don't have to start any expansion or game or whatever from step one. That just keeps you.
I get that.
Just be the poster boy for the expansion. Problem solved.
Poster boy. Yeah, there it is. Go ahead, Chaos.
But the average person's going to level one class. Like, I play Destiny, and I used to play with all 3 classes. I just don't have that time anymore. So I've now settled down with my Titan, and every expansion that comes out, whatever it is, I just play with that one class. And for the majority of people, I feel that will be how they play. And if they've picked the Devastator right now, that is easily enough with the experiences that they're going through right now to put them off the game.
Okay.
The game has a solid foundation. It is really good. The campaign is good enough. The expeditions are really good, challenging. I love the fact that you can set the tier to your own world level or to your own difficulty, so you can challenge it and gear yourself up yourself, and experience it the way you want to experience it. But don't push people away before they even get started. And at the moment, thanks to the player base, that is what's happening, and that's what's causing these knee-jerk reactions.
I want to go to Rich. Obviously, this is a whole bigger conversation, but you play this game with your brother. How big did nerfs in this conversation we have have an impact on you? Is this concerning, or what's your thoughts?
Well, no, it's not concerning to me. I mean, it's always with nerfs and buffs and patches in general, it's a matter of trust of the developer. I think the concern that people have that's justified is this was one big swing in one direction for this kind of change. And as you say, well, this is only the first step. It still requires that amount of trust. We've seen bad developers handle live services support in a way that isn't terribly conducive to a long-lived game. And so I think it's fine. I'm a Devastator. I'm 1/3 of the way through the skill tree anyway. I was surprised to find out just from this podcast that we don't have a bullet skill because my brother's rocking the volcanic bullets, whatever it is, from the pyromancer. But no, to me, I think there is probably some fundamental design decision somewhere that went wrong that has your human beings that are your player base electing to kick people.
Mm-hmm.
I had heard that the end game is very heavily reliant on timers.
Yeah.
And so I suspect that puts the thumb on the scale for DPS.
Yes.
In a way that is maybe not the greatest idea in terms of how people actually are, right? If in a perfect world, you don't have to worry about it that much. You can have these game design concepts. We don't live in that world. You've got people that say, oh, you're a Devastator, get out. And that's not fun for the Devastators. Now, maybe you could design around that with future patches and things and have, I'm willing to have a Devastator or a Pyromancer in this group and that kind of thing as a flag. But I think there probably is an issue there. And I think as part of the patch notes that I was reading before I was on this show, they actually decreased some of the timers along with some of those nerfs.
Only two of them.
For certain stages, because certain stages are like, oh, wow, this is super fast. We're going to easily clear that tier, and that's where you just pick that because go ahead.
So the problem I always have with that, and this is a very difficult problem for game developers to solve, so this isn't something that I blame people for, is, the super folks that are on Reddit and are making YouTube videos and whatnot can do this thing too fast. What is it like when the Hogue Boys show up?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and we're good at video games. We've been playing them our whole lives, but we aren't running world firsts. We aren't doing whatever it is that you're seeing on Twitch every day. And I do worry sometimes that there can be too aggressive patching that hits whatever the middle class equivalent for video game players is in order to make it at all possible for the elites to function. And so I am heartened to hear that there are world tiers and challenge tiers that appear at the end, and maybe we can balance that ourselves a little bit. But I do worry that when you talk about nerfs and buffs and everything else, that it sometimes can leave the middling average player in the lurch.
Absolutely. I think for me, when it comes down to it, like I really enjoy the game. Obviously, I've been covering it on the channel for a while. I think there is always a perceived inherent bias, but I enjoy these kind of games. I find lots of fun had in this experience because especially the multiplayer aspect, that's where the crashes have been the most frustrating. Crossplay currently turned off, makes sense. It's not working. It's causing issues. Like, I'm really looking forward to when it's just like, it's stable, it's easy to jump in and play. And like, I only think of now just a handful of things that I want to see changed in the game. When I see my friends online, I can't really see what class they're on. So are they playing through the story again on another character, or are they playing in the end game? I have to join in and kind of figure that out. And I think that's something that could be fixed with it. One of the things I love about the game is the stats that it gives me at the end of an expedition run. I wish that carried over from run to run to run so that I could see either my improvement, where, like what all the different numbers are, like almost kind of in a way of like if you think of, I don't know, Call of Duty, which has like every match that you play in the PvP side of it. But this has so much PvE data. I just like, I'm the baseball nerd in me. It's like, yes.
I want the analytics.
I want the analytics. I want to know, did I get better? Did I get worse? Like, hey, because it's so detailed. And all of a sudden it's like, yeah, but then I can't kind of recall to that. So I don't have this like statistical like way to compare builds. I'd love to see loadouts brought into the game. I think there's a lot of little quality of life things, kind of that would just overall improve my experience, because as I'm doing different builds, it'd be nice to be able to easily swap between the two, test them out, look at the stats comparatively, and then be like, yep, that was better. Nope, that was not better. Things like that. And that's just where like I fall. But overall, hand to the sky, like this game is so fun. Its core principle aspect keeps me hooked, keeps me playing. And the fact that I can play with friends, and as soon as that becomes easier to do, that's, I think, only going to make this a little bit more of a staple in my rotation. The downside is how violent it is. And the last thing I want to see for this game that would really like cement it home is an auto skip cutscene. I've seen it. Like, I don't need to see it again. Like, I've seen the story. If I want to, like, I can turn that on and off. But if they added that option, man, let's get speed runs in. Let's see how fast we can clear at different tiers. Have fun. Go nuts. Those are my thoughts. Any final thoughts from anybody here on the panel? I know this is typically we try to keep it an hour and a half, and that's where we're at. So
I was honestly just surprised to hear that some of the internet is not enjoying the game.
Oh, change this? Yeah, here we'll
change that video. That is massive spoilers there.
Oh, okay.
Nobody saw it. It's just a sandstorm. It's just a silly sandstorm.
I wasn't looking at anything.
Yeah.
No, I was. This was news to me that people weren't liking it because it was such a it was such a surprise favorite for me. It was really the surprise of the first half of 2021. It looks like might be the rest of 2021, depending on how the delays go.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, for me, I was following this game quite closely because it was something that interested me. And for me, it delivered. I was expecting a meta campaign. I got a meta campaign, and I'm happy with that. Most of the guys here know how I feel about, the main campaign being meaty and good. The side quests are amazing. The guns look absolutely stunning. They have so much kind of flair and style to them, and they're also, the legendaries at least are so unique in how they react. Like the Golem's limb gives you stone skin, the Thunderbird as like a bolt of lightning. It's just really fun and exciting to be able to just get into it, like really get into it, rip those mods out and put them onto stuff that you've got,
mix and match,
create that ultimate build. That's you. That's just personified you. And I mean, for me, it ticks every bright box. It's had its problems day one. I expected it. We even said here on the podcast, expect day one issues. It's gonna happen. There's not been a single game that's always online that's released like this that doesn't have them. It's always gonna be there.
Also, I gotta ask you guys something, because on the PS5, when I installed the digital version of it, I think it automatically replaced the demo.
It does.
It does, right? So it's almost like that. It's almost like an expansion to the demo. It just like replaced it, and I was surprised because I was expecting like, okay, so after I installed the game, I got to go and I got to delete the demo. But it was just like, boop, replace the demo, done, boom. I was like, oh, okay. Are we getting smart delivery next? Because I mean, but seriously, if you can do that, because I didn't even know you could do that on a PlayStation. So I was just like, wait, what?
I hope that you really enjoyed that highlight, and I hope that you check out the full podcast. Again, link is in the description. Thanks for being here, and I hope you have a fantastic day, you wonderful, beautiful individual.